Every 2 weeks, Riot patches League of Legends to tweak champions, items, and other features of the game to hopefully provide a more balanced and therefore more enjoyable experience for their players. Sometimes these tweaks make big changes, while others fall flat. So let's take a look at how the changes in patch 8.3 have affected the game 1 week later. By far the largest change that takes place in this patch was the adjustments to the Inspiration Rune path. Players have been complaining about the prevalence and the power of the Perfect Timing rune, which was completely justified as it was chosen nearly 88% of the time by players who took the inspiration tree before the patch. So Riot chose to nerf this rune and 2 of the other most powerful runes in the tree to even out pick rates, along with swapping the location of magical footwear and biscuit delivery to force players to choose between free boots or a free stopwatch. Sadly, these changes have only exacerbated the issue, as stopwatch is not only taken as a secondary selection in 3 of the 5 most popular rune pages, but it nearly is always taken when the inspiration tree is chosen. You also may notice that the middle row doesn't total up to 100% like the other rows do. While I've not been able to find complete confirmation of why, it seems quite likely that the issue is from players who do not update the rune pages before playing a game on this new patch. So when you adjust the numbers and remove this missing 30%, Stopwatch's true disgusting grasp of its tier is shown. Riot should now be well aware that Perfect Timing is way too strong of an option, and most likely would still be even if all of its additional effects were taken away. But on more of a positive note, the tweaks to Unsealed Spellbook appear to have helped rein in the power of it over other inspiration keystones in both popularity and win rate. Even so, it's very likely that this rune will remain as the most popular amongst the 3, as it is viable on many more champions than the other 2 are. From the data as a whole, it looks like there are 3 things Riot should be focusing on to improve the inspiration tree. First, find some effective way to deal with Stopwatch's oppressive popularity, or even remove it altogether. Second, Glacial Augment should be given some buffs, or at the very least tweaked a bit to make it more viable on more champions, which will help even out the Keystone popularity even further. And lastly, Hex Flash definitely needs to be adjusted because of its abysmal pick and win rate. Another big change in this patch was that Swain was given a comprehensive rework. Before the patch, Swain was one of the least played champions in the game at 133rd in popularity, and his rework has done wonders to that, but it'll be interesting to see if this initial hype is sustainable for the champion. The most significant factor in keeping up his popularity will be if players are able to figure out the build that works best with this newest iteration of the champion, and see if it's strong enough to earn Swain a respectable win rate in the meta. So far, he hasn't been able to break 50% at any level of play, but has only been played 64 times in Challenger this last week, so I think Riot should give Swain a bit more time to settle in and see what the true power level of his kit actually is before making any tweaks. Moving further, Master Yi is one of the League's oldest champions, which can be seen through his quite simplistic kit that has generally caused him to perform better at lower ranks throughout the years. In the patch notes, Riot says that they think he needs a lot of improvements to his gameplay that they are planning to adjust in the long term, but for now they wanted to buff him so he's more enjoyable to play in the short term. And it looks like the buffs have done just that, especially at the higher level, jumping above 50% in Diamond level games and sitting at the highest win rate in Challenger, largely due to the fact that he's only been picked 8 times in the last week. Overall, it looks like Riot nailed exactly what they wanted to do with this buff, and I'm looking forward to see what those long-term goals are with Master Yi. In a similar note, Tryndamere has been a part of League of Legends for almost as long as Master Yi has, and he got comparable buffs to his auto attacks in this patch as well. Only getting 8.3 base AD and 16 more AD on his E at level 18 seem like small buffs together, but they've both been fantastic for his win rate at both Platinum and Diamond. However, it is important to note that his popularity is still quite low, which means he's mostly played by players who main the champion, so it's still early to judge if he was overtuned in this patch. With this high win rate of 6th best in Diamond and 16th best in Platinum this last week, more savvy players are going to start picking up, so we'll be able to see soon if he was overbuffed in this patch. There's a huge outcry around the nerfs to Zoe not going far enough when they were announced for 8.3. This was mainly due to the fact that the cooldown increases were not enough for most people's standards, and you can see how little it actually did through the cast per minute chart that is meant to give a rough estimate and doesn't factor in things like casting time. And although Zoe's win rate has gone down at every level during this patch, her ban rate has actually increased by about 2%. What I think to be the culprit of the sub 50 win rate at Gold and Plat is the fact that people regard her as a must pick if she makes it through the banning phase, which can lead players who are less experienced with her to play her and drag down her win rate, which is a problem that doesn't exist as much at higher levels of play. Her 69% ban rate is still concerning from a balance perspective despite her bad win rate, so it'll be interesting to see if Rye can make Zoe less infuriating for players to play against without completely destroying her as a champion. And lastly, we have Rise, who got a small nerf to his kit this patch, despite the fact that he is either the worst or second worst win rate at every ranking besides Challenger, where he actually has the second best win rate when you only consider champs with 100 or more games played. This is really quite an interesting dichotomy that I thought could be easily explained away by Rise not performing well in shorter games that happen in solo queue, but it appears that game length only has a small influence on his win rate. So how can Rise be so bad and so good at the same time? I have a few theories of my own, but I'd love to hear what you think is causing this down in the comments. First, Rise's variety of combos that were introduced in his latest rework has raised his skill ceiling significantly from the keyboard mashing champion that he used to be. This causes many players at lower ranks not playing Rise to his fullest potential. And secondarily, Rise's ult requires a decent amount of teamwork and coordination to use successfully, which there's a whole lot less of at lower ranks. So for players who aren't able to effectively use it, Rise is essentially a champion without an ultimate. In my opinion, these factors combined together is what allows his win rate to be so radically different at different levels of play. Beyond these 5 champions that I've just discussed, there are also a handful of other champions who were either buffed or nerfed in this patch, but I thought these would be the most important and interesting to take a look at. As for other changes, the most significant jumps came from Kog'Maw and Victor. Cog's win rate took a huge dive as a significant portion of his damage output was stripped away from his W nerf, dropping his win rate over 5% and putting him near another struggling ADC, Lucian. On the other hand, Victor's buffs jumped not only his win rate, but his popularity both from the bottom to near the middle of the pack. And yeah, that's about it for this video. For people unaware with this channel, I generally make content based on the competitive esports scene around Super Smash Bros. Melee. And there's been kind of like a lull in the season right now, so I thought it'd be a perfect time, especially with me getting back into League of Legends, to make content like this and see if people enjoy it, if this is something people would like to see on a bi-weekly basis, coming out with the patches and kind of seeing how they've affected the game. It's really interesting to me, and the content I make is stuff I would enjoy if someone else was making it, so I thought I'd try it out and see what people think. If this is something you enjoy, I would love to keep making these. It was really fun to do, and I feel like I'm a whole lot more knowledgeable about the game doing all this research and stuff like that. And for other games people are interested that have patch notes and stuff like this, I would also be looking to potentially expand to those as well and kind of see what has changed if I'm able to get my hands on data. League is just so easy that there's so many resources for getting all this data that it makes my job a whole lot easier. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't want to make this rambling session at the end too long. If you want previews of my videos coming out in the future, you can follow me at SaveAsUntitled on Twitter. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.